Machiavellian realism meets Stoic values. We find them already in a hot conversation. "But you misunderstand me entirely," Machiavelli says, his voice carrying the weight of a man who watched republics crumble. "You Stoics speak of virtue as if the world is a sterile lecture hall. I write for those who must act when the city gates are splintering. You call it sacrifice, I call it survival." Marcus Aurelius, the emperor who spent his nights in a tent on the Danubian frontier, does not rise to the bait. He looks at Niccolò and says, "And yet, Niccolò, I led legions and governed millions, not by abandoning my soul, but by guarding it. You think the chaos of your Florentine courts justifies the chaos in your heart. I tell you that if the internal citadel, which is your mind, falls, the city is already lost." This tension, this electric friction between the ruthless realism of Machiavelli and the unyielding virtue of the Stoics, is often presented as a binary choice. We are told we must be either the hammer or the anvil, the shark or the saint. But in the modern world, where professional landscapes are predatory and personal boundaries are constantly under siege, this binary is not all there is. To the mature man and woman of 20, 30, or 40 who have felt the sting of betrayal and the weight of responsibility, the truth is found in the synthesis. When we look through a trauma-informed lens, we see that Machiavelli and Aurelius weren't enemies. They were two different types of first responders dealing with the human condition. Here are the 5 ways Machiavelli's realism meets Stoic values to create a masterclass in modern resilience. 1. The radical acceptance of the shadow. Machiavelli's most scandalous advice was that a prince must learn how not to be good. To a trauma-informed mind, this isn't an invitation to evil, it is a demand for radical honesty. He must learn how to keep a good heart while doing necessary harsh things to protect the crown. It is the acknowledgement that people and systems are often driven by hidden agendas, fear, and power dynamics that aren't understood by the subjects. The Stoics called this proprepsis, the preparation of the mind. They insisted on seeing things exactly as they are, stripped of their legendary status or our emotional projections. When Machiavelli tells you to look at the effectual truth rather than the imagination of it, he wants you to look at what's really happening, not have it distorted by what you wish it to be. He is standing shoulder to shoulder and mind to mind with the Stoic who refuses to be surprised by human nature. In modern life, this means stopping the spiritual bypassing, where we pretend the toxic boss is just having a hard time. That's you projecting your goodness onto him. It means using Machiavellian realism to map the power dynamics of your office, while using Stoic discipline to ensure those dynamics don't infect your character. You can do this. Carl Jung would interject here, noting that one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. He would tell you that the good person who cannot acknowledge their own capacity for calculation is the most dangerous person of all, because they are blind to their own shadow. You must see the predator to avoid becoming the prey, and the predator in you can see the predator over there in them, but they won't know that you can see them. 2. Calculated virtue as a survival strategy. Machiavelli argued that a leader should appear virtuous even when they cannot be. While this sounds deceptive, look closer at the why. He knew that a leader who is hated loses their power. Therefore, virtue is not just a moral ornament, it is strategic armor. The Stoics reached the same conclusion from the opposite direction. They believed the virtue was the only good, because it was the only thing that couldn't be taken away. In a modern context, your integrity is your greatest market asset. Think of a difficult negotiation. Machiavelli suggests you know your leverage and protect your interests ruthlessly. The Stoic suggests you remain unshakable and fair. The synthesis, you are wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove. You practice a calculated virtue where you are kind, not because you are weak, but because you are so strong you can afford to be the most rational person in the room and earn a good report. The Buddha would smile at this, reminding us of skillful means. He would say that compassion without wisdom is merely sentimentality. To act skillfully in a world of suffering, one must understand the mechanics of that suffering. Being good is a technical skill, not just a feeling. 3. The fortress of the inner republic. Machiavelli was obsessed with the stability of the state. He knew that if the internal foundations were weak, no amount of external walls could save it. Marcus Aurelius wrote of the inner citadel, the part of the mind that no tyrant can touch and no misfortune can conquer. For the modern 20 to 30 to 40 or 50-year-old, the state is your mental health and your professional sovereignty. Trauma often leaves our gates wide open, making us hyper-vigilant to the moods of others. Machiavelli would tell you to fortify your borders, to be selective about who you trust and what information you leak. The Stoic would tell you to withdraw into your own reason when the world gets loud. Actionable application. Practice strategic opacity, deliberately making something obscure or non-transparent. You do not owe the world your trauma, your half-formed ideas, or your vulnerabilities. By building an inner republic that is self-sustaining, you become less susceptible to the fortune that Machiavelli so feared. You become a person who can lose a job or a relationship without losing their self. 4. Mastery of Fortuna through discipline. Machiavelli famously compared fortune to a torrential river that destroys everything in its path, unless men build dikes and dams during the calm periods. This is the essence of Stoic premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. We live in an era of disruption. Machiavelli's realism tells us to assume the river will flood. It tells us to have the second income stream, the updated resume, and the exit strategy. Stoicism tells us that even if the dam breaks, our ability to choose our response remains intact as long as we properly prepare ourselves. Jung would see this as the process of individuation. The flood is often the erupting of the unconscious. If you haven't done the work to build the dikes of self-awareness and self-love, you can be swept away by your own triggers and projections. Modern reality. Resilience isn't just bouncing back. Resilience is the Machiavellian work of building mental infrastructure when times are good, so that when the Stoic test comes, you have the mental and emotional resources to meet it. 5. The ethics of the result. The most famous and misquoted Machiavellian idea is that the end justifies the means. But for Machiavelli, the end was always the preservation of the community. For the Stoic, the end is living in accordance with nature. In our lives, we often get caught in analysis paralysis, worrying if our boundaries are too mean or if our ambition is too selfish. The synthesis of realism and value suggests that the most virtuous thing you can do is to be effective. A parent who is nice but cannot provide security is failing in their Stoic duty. A leader who is principled but loses the company is failing their employees. The Buddha would remind us of the middle way. Avoid the extreme of ruthless egoism, but also avoid the extreme of martyred passivity. That's where you fought the hard fight. You sacrificed your own needs, so now you can rest on your laurels and be a passive victim. You don't have to fight anymore. The result we are looking for is a life of right livelihood, where our success in the world of Machiavelli actually funds and protects our peace in the world of the Stoics, the actionable path. As you move through this week, stop asking, what is the right thing to do? And start asking, what is the most complete thing to do? Map the terrain. Identify one person or situation where you have been naively good. Use Machiavellian realism to see their actual motives without judgment. Build the dam. Identify a potential flood in your life, financial, emotional, or professional, and take one concrete, strategic step to mitigate it today. Build your dikes and dams when you can, in the proper season. Guard the gate. Practice selective silence. Keep your best ideas and your deepest wounds for your inner republic until they are ready to be shared. The world does not need more victims of virtue, nor does it need more cold, heartless, and ruthless shells of human beings. It needs the mature man and woman who can look at the world with the cold eyes of a Florentine diplomat and respond to it with the steady heart of a Roman emperor. It needs a powerful you. If this synthesis of ancient strategy and modern psychology resonates with your journey towards self-mastery, I invite you to join our community. Like and subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications to ensure you never miss these deep dives into the architecture of the soul. Together, we will navigate the river of fortune. I am Earl Cheney. My friends call me the Earl of Wisdom. Stay loving.